we've all had enough. Keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with their old plan. They know that we're calling them wrong. Coming, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're
The year is 2006 and all kinds of crazy things are happening. Italy wins the World Cup against the Germans, Google buys YouTube, an American vice president unloads a shotgun into a lawyer, and Pluto is reduced to being called a dwarf planet. Which is just a mean thing to do. It's just floating up there doing its thing. It doesn't need you down here calling it names like that. Let Pluto vibe, okay? But again, it was 2006, and this is during the time when the racing game genre was booming, which might be an understatement. You see, I was never really into racing games that much. I would play a racing game here and there, but wasn't really a big fan of the genre. But yet, it was so prominent, I couldn't help but notice racing games all over the place. So the only names I knew for racing games were the Burnout games and the Need for Speed games, and that was it for me since I really wasn't into the genre. Then one day I was looking through the store and I happened to notice a game called Flatout 2. I didn't know anything about the Flatout games, but the box cover looked pretty cool and I figured, what the heck, I'll give it a shot. Little did I know that my still developing autistic brain just rewarded itself with something of unknown joyous wonders. So I put the game disc into the PS2, I sit down and press the X repeatedly because I never cared much for game intros. The menus pop up and I hear a gripping soundtrack start playing. Now I can't play the music in the video because it's all licensed, but this was the first time I was actually able to get to listen to a Nickelback song without someone blasting in my ear how much the band sucked. Can anyone tell me in the comments why the band was so hated? Because I never understood that. I thought they sounded good. After hearing that song, I started to hear the song Breathing by Yellowcard, and that was a song I loved listening to all the time when I was young. Okay, Flatout 2, so far you got my attention. Let's just jump into a quick race and see what you have to offer me. Oh wow, these derby cars are ugly and hard to look at. Like a fat guy in a dirty wife beater shirt. But I do like the splitter car though. Okay, now the race class. These look better and the Nevada looks good, but I really want to use the Incetta. Now let's check out the street class. And to be honest, I loved all the street cars. I mean, look at them. How can you say no to any of these? So I picked a car at random, then selected a map at random, and as the countdown began, I wondered, am I going to like this or am I going to be disappointed? Like an American seeing another country with free healthcare for the first time, I was astonished at what I was seeing. I was surprised at what I was doing. I was confused at the feelings I was having. I was wondering, why didn't this be a part of my life sooner? So at this point of the video, I will do my best to convey why I was having these feelings. Now I mentioned I knew of the Burnout games, but I never played them. I was a Need for Speed player. I had played 3 of their games before trying the Flatout 2 game. Those games didn't encourage me to be destructive, they trained me to be fast, accurate with my turns, and be cautious around other vehicles. That was it. Flatout 2 was the first game I played that threw all that to the wind and said, hey, see that bitch? Ram them. So I do, and then I notice that I get rewarded for doing it. So at this point, this is when the dopamine started knocking around my brain. Stars, nitro, spectacular crashes. Along with this small little attention I never knew I wanted in a racing game. People flying out of their cars. This is how addictions are formed. This is where my bias shows at this point. If you have a game with bouncy floppy ragdoll physics, then I'm already interested. Then you take that and make it a gameplay feature, then you're already getting points in my book. Once I got used to the controls, I just kept playing the game for hours. Then I realized that I haven't even touched the career mode. I jumped into the career mode and I bought a car and upgraded it. Then I noticed that I kept unlocking maps as I won that weren't racing tracks. There were stunt stages and derby stages. It was at this point I learned sleep wasn't a requirement in life. But I feel like I'm talking too much about myself here, so let's talk about the game properly. Flatout 2 was developed by Bugbear Entertainment and published by Empire Interactive. Some of Bugbear's early games were Rally Trophy, Tough Trucks, and Flatout. So they already had experience in racing games before they started the Flatout series and would continue to make racing games after Flatout 2, like Ridge Racer, Wreckfest, to name a few. They actually didn't make any more Flatout games after releasing Flatout 2 Ultimate Carnage, so another developer would continue the Flatout series from that point on. That studio would be Game 6 Studios. After the original Flatout got good reviews and had a good sized fan base to it, Bugbear decided to up the destruction and fun by improving what made the original great. They improved the graphics, the gameplay, and the physics to give the gaming public Flatout 2. And if you ask me, I have to say they did a great job. Even to this day, I still enjoy the game. Yeah, it's just simple mindless destruction, but that's just it. It's just simple mindless destruction you can relax to. Hell, I didn't care if I won or not. I felt good anytime I got to do some destruction. However, if I wanted to take it seriously, it would provide a challenge for me. So much of a challenge that I actually had to watch my back and make sure one particular racer didn't wreck me like a drunk Christian uncle who claims to be a good man despite having 4 divorces under his belt. That being the racer Sophia. This bitch was always giving me a hard time. 9 out of 10 times she was always the cancer in my liver. If I looked behind me, there she was riding my ass, and not in the fun way. Then she would get ahead of me and have me riding her ass, and not in the fun way. Then she would try to wreck me, and not in the fun way. She pushed me to the point that my only goal in life was to slam her as hard as possible into trees, guardrails, buildings, and other cars. And yes, that was the fun way. In short, she is a red flag who made me weak in the knees, and every woman should try to be like her. I mean, have you seen her truck? How do you not want a woman like that? And I know what you're thinking. Soaring Bread, your attraction to red flags is unhealthy and should change. But you know what else needs to change? Your speedometer. It's in kilometers per hour. This is America. You should be using miles per hour. This is the land of the free. That is how we do it here. Is your healthcare free? Is your education free? Are your crab legs free? Doesn't sound like the land of the free to me then. And once you fix that, I'll consider switching over to freedom units. Speaking of America, let's talk about baseball, because surprisingly enough, this is also a baseball game. So this was something I mentioned a few minutes ago, the stunts mode. You can take your driver and launch them out of a rocket-propelled car for different sporting events, and they have a good handful of them. Stone skipping and basketball being my favorites. They also have bowling, high jump, ski jump, curling, darts, soccer, field goal, and ring of fire. These are just basic minigames, but they do feel good to play since you are using the ragdoll physics to play them. I remember spending hours on these stunts trying to beat my high scores, always pushing myself to find the perfect speed and angle of attack to hit the targets. Then you have the derby mode, which if you don't know what demolition derby is, it's basically where everyone jumps into their car, drive at breakneck speeds, and try to demolish the other opponent's car as much as possible by ramming into each other. I mean, look at them driving so recklessly. It's like they have free healthcare or something. And the last thing I have to talk about is the event races. But if I'm going to be honest, I didn't care for them much. Don't get me wrong, I had a fun time with them. It's just I didn't like them as much as the other stuff. Some of the tracks are designed in a way to get the drivers to crash into one another, and some are just tracks that go in a circle. So, you know, the boring tracks. But thankfully there is a way to improve the circle maps, unlock a rocket car, and then drive in the opposite direction. Oh yeah, just a heads up, once you unlock the Flatmobile, you can kiss your sweet cheeks goodbye because this thing does not believe in safety ratings. Also, if you're someone who wants to go on a nostalgia trip, then the music on this game will definitely help you out with that. The soundtrack fits absolutely perfectly with the atmosphere of this game, so it helps gives this feeling that everything just goes together for this game. And I think that's why this game is a gem for many gamers. It's the feeling it gives off. The music, the AI, the physics, the tone, the atmosphere, all of these things were smashed together in such a way that it sucks you in and keeps you playing for hours. Now, is the game perfect? No, it's not. But at the same time, it doesn't feel flawed as other games. If I had to pick one thing to complain about this game, other than Sophia, that would be that the rear-wheel drive vehicles feel too hard to control at times. As you've been watching this video, there are certain vehicles I prefer to drive. These being vehicles that are front-wheel drive or vehicles that are four-wheel drive. These vehicles are easier to control in my opinion, but the rear-wheel drive vehicles, as great as they look and as great as their stats are, I suck with controlling them at times. They tend to fishtail a little too much at times. If I tried recovering from a spin out, I would just go in circles. They feel a little too floaty if you ask me. But I did manage to get better at them as time went on, so maybe I just needed to spend a little bit more time on them. So yeah, I think I'll chalk that up to more skill issues, but at the same time, I feel like the rear drive vehicles are too floaty. And that's pretty much all I have to say about the game, I think. I had a lot of fun with the game when I was younger, and I still have a lot of fun with it now playing it. I highly recommend picking it up and giving it a try. It's a classic gem that does not disappoint. I got the game off GOG when it was on sale, and I don't regret it one bit. Well, that's all I have to say. I hope you have a good day, and drive safe. Also, wear your goddamn bloody seatbelt.